Everybody, Professor Doom here, and I want to share with you a theory that I have based upon a post that originated in Reddit and it made its way into other forums. I'm going to share with you that post, and I'm sure most of you guys are already knowing what I'm talking about. So there in this Reddit post was a molecular biologist who worked researching EBOs or exospheric biological organisms. And what's interesting about that Reddit poster or the account to that poster, and as you can see from this snapshot here, the moderator says that there was some weird shit going on with the account being deleted and shadow banned, and they could actually see it in real time. But you're going to find my theory pretty interesting, I think. So I'm going to take you to another forum where this exact duplicate post was posted, and I want to share with you some semi-technical information that we're going to look through, and then I'm going to show you a couple of articles related to the theory I have and part of the post from this individual. So what I find very interesting going on is that I did a video about Emery Smith coming out, and he was working in a deep underground military base doing research at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. And I did a video on that back in 2020, and he came out in 2017. Then, of course, we have David Grush, who's come out recently. And this individual who posted in Reddit says that he was working for Dietrich, Maryland, or the Dietrich base, back in the 2000s and the 2010s. And I find it interesting, the timing of all of these things going on. So let's take a look at the post in case you are unfamiliar. I hope I'll leave links in the description box with that link to the post so you guys can read all of the technical information. But I want to go through just a few highlights of the post with you and then share with you my theory about something that has to do with these extraterrestrial biological entities. Because he goes on to state some very interesting facts about these entities that they came across. Okay. Little highlighted points about the poster and his qualifications in the field of molecular biology and what he was tasked to do with that national security laboratory. Actually a private contractor, a national security contractor. And you'll see that in the 2000s to the mid 2010s, I worked as a molecular biologist for a national security contractor in a program to study exobiospheric organisms. And let me pause this, and I'm going to take you to some of the highlighted points here. And if you are unfamiliar with this post, I will leave links, like I said, so you guys can check this whole post out. Because what I do find out about this post is it's very technical. The person who posted this and took all the time to post this very lengthy article has a high degree of molecular biology qualifications. And their grammatical skills are also very top rate as well. So let's take a look at this. We've discovered that the EBO genome is a chimera of genomes from our biosphere and from an unknown one. They are artificial, ephemeral, and disposable organisms created for a purpose that still partially eludes us. Which is interesting, disposable organisms, okay? And TPR opens the door to several possibilities. One of them suggests that EBO geneticists can insert or remove a gene from a cell in a way that is far more targeted and efficient than our technology allows. No proteins have been identified in the EBO genome that interacts with TPR. Rather, we believe that these proteins are exclusively targeted by external genetic engineering tools, probably used at the zygotic stage of embryonic development. The nature of these tools is unclear, but we definitely don't have anything like them. The probable absence of these proteins from the genome is a further indication of their artificiality. Given the high probability of artificiality of their genome and the apparent ease of modifying it with biomolecular tools, it's not out of the question that there could be polymorphism between individuals depending on their role and function. In other words, an individual could be genetically designed to have characteristics that give it an advantage in performing a given task, like soldier ants and worker ants in an anthill. Note that these previous statements are speculation. To my knowledge, only one individual genome has been sequenced. I can't make a definitive statement on genetic variation between individuals. Is that some genes correspond directly, nucleotide by nucleotide, with known human genes or even some animal genes. For these genes, there doesn't seem to be any artificial refinement, but rather a crude copying and pasting. Why they do it is nebulous and still subject to conjecture. There are also many genes which are not found in our biosphere whose role has not been identified. Finding the purpose of these novel genes is one of the aims of the program. I'd like to note before going any further that this heterogeneity of genes of known and unknown origin is an undeniable proof of the artificiality of the EBOs. And finally, to the part where I had, I don't want to say an epiphany, but I don't even know if anybody has picked up on this yet. I haven't even went out there I got so excited after I read this that I didn't even go and look to see if anybody has drawn any of the conclusions or the theory that I'm about ready to share with you. Now, remember, he said that these are artificial entities using what appears to be some human genes, animal genes, and they're artificially or genetically created for a purpose. Right here, transcription and translation and protein expression. I briefly introduced the differences in post-translational modifications between human and EBO. This is hardly a surprise, as we often see the same thing between different terrestrial species. Obtaining a viable protein from a DNA sequence is a complex process involving hundreds of protein intermediates, each with a precise and essential role. A minor variation in this assembly line can lead to functional irregularities in the final product. So it's no surprise that our setbacks along the way when the first EBO gene transfection attempts failed to produce the desired functional protein in human cell lines. And then we go on down here. For your information, we use a biological ballistics delivery system for our transfection needs because our methods are not very effective with cells of this line. Like most eukaryotic cell lines, I don't even know if I pronounced that right, enters a phase of exponential growth when exposed to fetal bovine serum. It's only half surprising that a cell line from such an exotic source should be sensitive to the growth factors present in the fetal bovine serum. In my opinion, this can be explained by the addition of animal genes to the genome, such as growth receptors. Now, he goes on to state in this article that researching a few of these EBEs, or the EBOs as they're called, is that they were missing they have no anus and they have no genitalia, which leads one to believe that they are genetically created. So now I asked myself, if you had such a strong response from fetal bovine serum with these EBOs, well, then it stands to reason that you could, what you could essentially call, clone these EBOs so you have a a more of a workforce. How am I going to explain this to you? Imagine you're an EBE and you're with like 3 others or 5 others or whatever. You got a whole crew, and one of your EBE buddies is now defunct, or he has to be taken out of commission, and you need more. Well, this is not about procreation because they have no genitalia. How do you create more of your workers, just like he mentioned about they're genetically created as if they were workers in an anthill, worker ants. And if you needed more workers, how would you create them? Well, what can you use fetal bovine serum for? Let's take a look at fetal bovine serum, and it's going to give us our answer that what they have been doing, these EBEs, are actually cloning themselves or genetically creating more workers, maybe perhaps because they're far away from home and they need more workers, and this would be the way to go about doing it. But now, where would you get your fetal bovine serum from? Let's take a look. Now, I could take you guys to the original article here, but I have it in my Google Pocket, and for ease of presentation, I'm just going to show you the display that my Google Pocket gives. But as you can see, we can view the original if we so chose. The Comanche County Sheriff's Department is looking for the person responsible. The cow's uterus, milk bag, and right ear was sliced. Someone had to have tranquilized her and then given her a shot of that stuff that coagulates the blood, because there was no bullet holes. Nothing, she said. Okay? From the exact same Comanche County. Calf mutilations puzzle concern police and citizens. Disturbing and sinister took place where the calves' blood must have been coagulated, barely a full day old, were horribly mutilated by unknown subjects. And it goes on to state they were very upset. Blah, blah, so on and so forth. Very graphic photographs of the mutilated animals. And talk about there was no blood. There was no evidence of blood, save for a tiny amount on a nearby rock. There is no evidence of wild animal attacks or scavengers. In any event, Zimmerman, who has ranchers here for 8 years, taking over Father Surge, is concerned. Blah, 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 blah. And what's interesting is everybody who's familiar with Linda Moulton Howe and her position on cattle mutilations are that they are being performed by aliens. And now we may just have the purpose for these blood withdrawals and these cattle mutilations explained right here from this Reddit post. And I'm going to show you some very interesting things about the fetal bovine serum. Let's take a look at just a few more articles just like this. It's hard to imagine anyone doing it, but a 5-year-old pregnant cow found killed and mutilated this week is the latest in a string of animal deaths on a Hall County farm. Goes on to talk about the blood was drained. They don't leave blood or anything. It's almost like a surgical cut. Okay, let's take a look at some more here. One more. Jamestown, North Dakota. $40,000 reward for information about the deaths of 58 pregnant cows that were grazing in the National Wildlife Refuge. They were found dead, no blood. Testing ruled out lightning, anthrax, blue-green algae, all of this stuff, and talking about no blood and everything else. A crew on horseback made the discovery, and the whole process kind of started with calling the state veterinarian, corrections officials that needed to be there to help us figure out the what and the whys immediately, they said. Okay. 58 pregnant cows. Now let's go take a look at fetal bovine serum. Fetal bovine serum. And do you remember about the coagulation of blood in the article? Right here. Although fetal bovine serum has cells and clotting factors removed, over 1,000 components conducive to cell growth remain, including all growth factors, hormones, lipids, spreading factors, attachment factors, sugars, transport proteins, vitamins. Bovine serum is classified according to the age of the animal from which the blood was collected. Fetal bovine serum is sourced from fetuses, newborn, calf bovine serum, adult bovine serum. Why fetal bovine serum? Wondering what fetal bovine serum does and how it's used in research? While other animal sera are available and utilized, fetal bovine serum remains the most universally employed. Fetal bovine serum contains a sparse amount of gamma globulin, higher levels of growth factors, and fewer complement proteins than both calf and adult bovine serum. This makes fetal bovine serum ideal for propagating cell growth while also decreasing the possibility of mammalian cells binding or lysing in the culture, rationalizing the preference of fetal bovine over newborn, donor, or adult bovine serum. In the late 1950s, Theodore Puck first introduced the use of FBS with the purpose of encouraging cellular proliferation for several decades. The use of fetal bovine serum has been ubiquitous across laboratories worldwide. Its popularity has continued to lay in its indispensability as a supplement in cell and tissue culture applications. Research, pharmaceutical, and biotechnical manufacturing have relied on FBS valuable properties. Its uses include, but are not limited to, cloning. So I ask you, if you have all of these cow mutilations going on, and a lot of them happen to be pregnant cows or calves, or anything related to FBS in these cattle, wouldn't it be safe to say that if it were aliens or EBEs, the purpose that they would be doing it for would be to clone themselves? Have they been sent out from a long distance? And if need be, if they need to create more of themselves as workers or whatever the case may be, that they have the biological technical know-how to clone themselves using these extractions from cattle for the fetal bovine serum to accomplish the cloning needed by them? Is that the possibility? That's what I found so very interesting in this article. I will leave you guys links in the description box so you guys can read the article for yourself. I'm just going to run through and show you all of the technical jargon that this poster used so you can see the worthwhile that it would be for you to actually look over this article, read it for yourself, because there is much more to be discovered in this post. Let's take a look at the final pieces. Discuss the morphology of these entities, their skin, the temperature, and why they have this film on their body. When the film is removed, there's a strong smell of ammonia coming from the pores of the skin. The head, the orifices of the very small mandible, doesn't appear to be any tongue or esophagus, which leads me to believe in the artificiality of these entities myself. The nasal cavities, the eyes, ears, the biological system, the respiratory system, circulatory system. And the system is complete. The excreto pseudoferous system. The system is completely different from what I've seen. As mentioned earlier, there is no large orifice like an anus or urethra to get rid of biological waste. Digestive system. given the absence of teeth, the narrowness and rigidity of the esophagus, the absence of true stomach, and the absence of defecation, it is strongly believed the EBOs can only consume food in liquid form. Nervous system, musculoskeletal, artificial system. We speculate the artificial molecular machines may be present in the body, and that copper, if present, would be essential to their function or assembly. So I'll just leave you guys with that. And there is much more to read, and you can read it down the line. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully you guys find the exact same theory that I do relating to cattle mutilations, fetal bovine serum, and the uses for it for reproduction or cloning of these biological entities. Thanks, everybody.